Right. So what's going on in the States then?
What's going on in the States? So the vaccine mandate, the United States has lifted some of the vaccine mandates for U.S. citizens, for instance, to re-enter the country, and it's being lifted and defeated in multiple court cases, okay? High court cases, federal appeals courts. But the military one, that is the jewel in the crown of the White House, because if the military require it, at least it gives some credence for other institutions to require it. So Biden's vaccine mandate for the military has been roundly defeated this week, and this new defense bill is basically Congress using the power of the purse. So you said, what's a Republican Congress going to do differently than a Democratic Congress? Well, here's a good example. They're basically taking funding away for this, and basically saying not only that, it should be deemed as illegal, unconstitutional, and unlawful to require members of the military to deny them their basic constitutional rights that make them, compel them to take an experimental mRNA gene jab, basically. So that's out. And so the pharmaceutical industry, they're not happy about this, obviously, because that was the locking in profits for the next quarter, year round. I mean, the military provides a stable profit source where the doses that are sold to the Defense Department are being done so at a premium, much more expensive than on the consumer commercial side, okay, or through the health insurance companies even. So this is a huge defeat for Biden. Let's take a look at this, though. There he is. Joe's not happy about this. Of course, the Biden administration, the military vaccine mandate to get fully vaccinated or face discharge resulted in 8,000 troops being kicked out of the military. However, the mandate also threatened the livelihoods of at least 60,000 more service members who did not wish to take the vaccine, also their families as well. And look at this. So thousands of those who had filed for a religious exemption for the vaccine, but the requests were dismissed, and this was done automatically. I think we covered that at the time.
We did. Yeah.
This was done through an AI application that the military used, prompted a warning from the Pentagon Inspector General. So basically, the regulatory bodies are finally waking up, pushing back on this. The wheels of justice in America are incredibly slow. Here's Thomas Massie, one of the leaders there, remember the Freedom Caucus. So the military COVID vaccine mandate will end. So this was done as part of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. That's effectively like a rollover legislation that's become like a statutory instrument on steroids and enables every bad policy in the United States. So he's basically saying detaching this vaccine mandate, this COVID vaccine issue from the NDAA. Right. So that's how Biden or Trump probably it probably started under Trump, but definitely under Biden. I don't know what the deal with Trump was on this per se, but Biden really held on to this. Chip Roy, he's also a member of the Freedom Caucus. So this is a faction within the Republican Party in the House that is on, they're I would say on team reality. They're on team common sense. They're doing their job as legislators, which is what we should expect from our politicians. So they've been pushing this for 2 years, Mike. 2 years. Finally, this bill gets passed. So that shows you that elections do have consequences. I know we like to be cynical about politics and elections, and our vote doesn't count, and we're all disenfranchised at some level, and that's true. And maybe policy doesn't always turn in favor of how we'd like it, but there are opportunities to push back bad policy and legislation. It can happen, but it's not easy. This is one example of it.
Sure. Which takes us to Naomi Wolf then.
Yeah, so on the vaccine issue, campuses, this is the other front line on this. Students are going back to college this fall, this winter, and some of them are being required or compelled by the university to get vaccinated or get boosted in order to have access to classes and campus life. So Naomi Wolf, best-selling author, former Democratic strategist, I believe an advisor to Hillary Clinton, or the Clinton administration, I believe, Bill Clinton, I think. But she's gone back to her alma mater, Yale, Ivy League school, and she's pitched up and she's heading this rally here. We've got a clip of this, and it's very powerful. You can watch the full 18-minute speech online. It's on a number of video sharing platforms already. Just put Naomi Wolf in Yale University, and here's this, and I think it's worth listening to.
What a liberal arts education is supposed to provide, which is discerning liberty of thought, freedom of expression, and informed consent. I cannot believe, like I'm literally speaking here, but my heart is breaking and I'm on the verge of tears because I cannot believe that in the year 2022, after 35 years of advocacy for women's health and human rights and civil liberties, I'm standing here to say Yale University should not mandate 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds with an experimental, dangerous mRNA lipid nanoparticle injection just so they can come back to school and resume their educations. I can't believe I have to say this, but here we are, and these young people who don't deserve to even have to think about this endangerment of their future, this crushing of their spirits just to get the education that many of their parents have slaved for and saved for years, and that they worked so hard to obtain. I am here to tell Yale University, I used to live just beyond there when I was a freshman. I lived at Davenport and then Berkeley when I was an undergraduate. I believed that this place would protect the civilization that it sought to portray, right? A civilization in which I learned about the Nuremberg Code here at Yale. I learned about the Geneva Conventions here at Yale. I learned about the Hippocratic Oath and Galen and the great tradition of medical illumination here at Yale University. I cannot believe I'm standing outside these walls saying, don't coerce children and young adults, minors and young adults, into damaging their lives and submitting to an illegal injection that violates the Geneva Conventions, that violates the Nuremberg Code, that violates the Hippocratic Oath, that violates basic human rights, so these kids can pick up their education.
Fair enough.
So if I had one criticism for Andrew Bridgen, MP, is that the points Naomi Wolf was making there are legal points. This is about the rule of law. Do we live in a nation of laws? Do we recognize international treaties that have stood the test of time, and all of a sudden all of these things have been discarded and thrown out the window? Those are the issues that he should be bringing as well on the floor of the House of Commons when he's challenging the Prime Minister, for instance, or that issue, bringing that issue up.
Yes.
Those are real. They can have teeth, but otherwise the fact checkers rule in the unproven realm of pseudoscience. So that's one suggestion I'd give to Andrew Bridgen.
Yeah, okay. So where does that take us in terms of infertility, for example?
Well, this is the big issue, and this isn't specifically to do with talking about vaccines, Michael, though a lot of people have made allusions to this. A fact with the risks of infertility for male and female with the vaccines, but that's not what this is about. So this is interesting. There's some studies that have been done regarding male fertility in recent years, and Mike, the picture is really dark, and it's getting worse. And we want to point to this here. I know I referenced that film Children of Men. That I believe that was 2006. Yeah, Clive Owen. Clive Owen, the star of that. So it was about the end of human reproduction. Literally people stopped having kids and they had no idea why, what brought that on. So 18 years passed, no new babies globally. So it's a science fiction film, it's a dystopian film, but is there some truth to this? Well, look at this national pulse here. Spermageddon, they're calling it in this article, humanity may be functionally infertile by 2050. New study warns. So this is interesting. Massive decline in sperm counts are a global problem, according to new research that has evident implications for the survival of the natural human race. Current trends in sperm counts, if extrapolated, suggest as early as 2050, the species may have trouble reproducing. What does that mean exactly? It means this. Researchers have further corroborated prior information gained on sperm counts in North America, Europe, Australia, revealing the decline in sperm counts is mirrored in the South as well, in Central America, in Asia, in Africa too. China's experienced a negative birth rate. India, negative birth rate. They're not having a high enough birth rate to meet replacement on population. So this isn't just a European and a North American issue or a first world issue. This is global. And look at this. The median man will have a sperm count of 0, meaning that 1/2 of all men will produce no sperm at all, and the other half will produce so few as to be functionally infertile. That's the important term, Mike. Functionally infertile. That means that you'll have a range, but the median is going to be 0. That means 2050, this spermageddon or this children of men situation could become a reality. Nobody wants to talk about this. This is hugely uncomfortable issue to talk about. Do you see any politicians talking about this? Are they interested in talking about it? This is kind of an existential problem for humanity. What else is more important? I don't know. Maybe climate change. What do you think? I mean, this is real. So all we can talk about is climate change. So I don't know. I watched that film, Mike, years ago, and it left a heavy mark on a lot of people who watched it.
Of course, also the basis of The Handmaid's Tale, if anybody wants to watch popular culture and see this type of subject being tackled.
Yeah.
But let's move to China then finally on this subject, Patrick. And the question is, has China begun implementing its relaxation of COVID-0?
Well, this is interesting. So this has been a big damaging issue for Xi Jinping and the Central Party. Okay, so they are lifting restrictions. They're relaxing restrictions a little bit. The good news is the market has reacted. Investors are reacting positively. They're moving back towards doing business with China on this because it was an impossible environment. But what are they really proposing here? So instead of lockdowns, massive lockdowns, now they're moving to targeted lockdowns. So instead of whole cities or whole districts within a city, you're talking about apartment buildings or floors within an apartment building. So they're still doing this targeted lockdown, shorter lockdowns. So instead of longer periods, shorter, briefer periods. And they're only closing roads and major thoroughfares for what they would deem extreme emergencies. So they used to give the local prefect the authority to make these sort of broad sweeping lockdown anti-COVID measures. And now the Central Party stepped in and said, you guys can't do that, only if it meets certain thresholds. And so they're also relaxing the health code. So China has that pass on the smartphone with WeChat app, and where it's a traffic light system. So now they're relaxing the health code system. So you're allowed to self-isolate if you're an asymptomatic case. Before, even an asymptomatic case had to go to the government field hospital or the COVID camp. And so now that's been relaxed. So they are pulling back, but all the restrictions are still there. They're still there. They've just been dialed down and localized.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So I think people should pay attention to what's going on in China, because it could be reflected in our policy too if our governments still want to press these buttons.
Okay, if you like what the UK column does, you would like to support us, please head over to community.ukcolumn.org. There are options to help us there. You could pick something up at the UK column shop, but we just would like to say that with the way that the postal strikes are going, another strike today, then things are getting increasingly dodgy about whether we'd be able to get stuff to people by Christmas, and we're hearing very disturbing tales of what's going on in post office sorting offices, so you may want to consider that, but also please share the material on the various platforms. And then another reminder that tomorrow we have the 5th Doctors for COVID Ethics Symposium on the UK column and other places, but watch on the UK column if you can. It's going to be a great event. Please join us for that. It begins at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And finally, just a brief reminder that David Scott is hosting another short symposium on Thursday, the 15th, starting at 4:30 p.m. Entitled Education, Not Indoctrination. More details about that on Monday. Now,